Hello everyone and welcome back. Today we are going to just be doing a brief, I know it's not super brief, showcase of a build that I created. As I said, I'm going into these kind of a series of these themed builds. This one is significantly bigger than the last one. As I said, the farmhouse one was just to ease me back in. This one is much bigger. I basically found what was an interesting Minecraft seed where there is a island with a village on it and another small island. I got rid of the village by not generating structures, and then I added basically a solar punk village on it. If you don't know, solar punk is this futuristic style that is focusing on looking obviously futuristic and having a lot of technology as punk styles tend to have, but focusing a lot on renewable energy sources, a lot of greenery into the build, and looking very bright and a very futuristic, optimistic look, if you will, as well. So I basically built a solar punk village, which consists of farms, a townhouse, a temple, windmills, airships, and a lot of skyscrapers scattered throughout the build. This build is sectioned into biodomes that basically are where different builds are going to be, or different groups of builds are going to be, and that's essentially what this entire build is. Now, I do want to say, this is just showcasing some of the buildings that I thought were good to showcase my building process and exactly what I went around doing in the building, as you're going to see in the time lapses of these builds. But if you want to see every single build as well as the detailed interiors of the build, because every build has interiors and an explanation of what I was thinking with every single build, I am going to do a walkthrough and talk through as well. So if you want to check that out, you're more than welcome to. But without further ado, let's get into the brief little showcase. Alright, so starting out with the farms here, I was going for kind of a circular aesthetic and using these biodomes, if you want to call them, basically large glass domes to build the rest of the build. This one is like a sugarcane farm if you can get it. I'm using the Axiom Lab to rebuild this, and this is just one of these first farms. There's actually 3 farms in total. This is the second one, as you can see here, again being built from the Axiom Mods rebuild, which is why you have that little weird aspect on the right side of your screen. Again, all of these farm builds were small circular houses with some different variation on them, and then the farms were kind of built throughout. I wanted to use the verticality and use the glass dome roofs as a place to place part of my farms on, though you won't see it in this one here. Now, of course, because it's solar punk, you have to have renewable green energy, and I decided that the easiest way I could do this is windmills. So I looked up essentially what is a really good wind turbine, how to build it, and I basically used that template as well as my own tweaks to fit with the copper stylization of this build to do that. If you don't, or you haven't noticed, this build is done with the orange and blue style gradients. So those are the 2 main gradients, with white and black as the accent colors on those gradients, and copper is the big reflection. Copper is a really metallic looking block, and I think futuristic builds, there's going to be a lot of metal, hence why I wanted that metallic feel. So as you can see here, it's the traditional windmill, but I used that copper to put rings around to kind of accentuate that metallic feeling that I wanted to have throughout the entire build. Again, if you want a more detailed explanation, just go through the walk and talk through video. This one, I'm just trying to showcase the building process of some of these builds here as well. Another aspect that you see me do is I do add daylight sensors on the top of these, and these are supposed to represent solar panels, if you will, and that's pretty much on every single build they have those. And you also will see that I add some leaves and coming down from the build, because solar punk, yes, renewable energy, but also very green in its environment. This one, I made 2 actually of these as well, and they're basically side by side. These are large satellite towers. So these are actually, I think, the last things I made in the build, but I thought I'd show this before I get into more of the core aspect of the build. Again, as you can see with this one, I'm actually reversing the template, going for the white as the gradient and using the copper, in this case green and orange at the same time. You see me use the orange as the accent colors. I thought I'd do this because it's interesting, whatever. But in general, I really liked how these turns out. These ones I completely did by myself. Normally, I would use reference images to really help me figure out what exactly I want to do. But this one, I just kind of freeballed it, which was kind of nice to do. But I went for a pretty simple, simplistic, ascending circular design with this satellite dish at the top. As you can see, I'm transitioning from that green to that orange. I'm using a gradient for everything, gradient for the walls, gradient for the copper, basically. And you see this throughout the build. I will use the slightly oxidized copper and the fully oxidized copper. Or if it's orange, I will use the non-oxidized copper and the slightly oxidized copper. As you can see with this build, to add a little bit of flair. Again, all of the interiors are done. And this one I think has a really cool interior with spiraling staircases. There's also 2 of these, by the way. There's not just one, and there's a whole host of other things throughout this build that I'm not fully going to show in this video. This is kind of just like a brief showcase if you want to see the whole thing. Again, walk through, talk through. But this is kind of a really cool little satellite thing that I decided to build in this build. Now we get into what I'm going to call the airships, if you will. I don't know if you've ever seen the Hindenburg disaster, you know about that, but that's loosely what I modeled these out of. These are basically things that carry passengers in these big helium balloons, and that's basically what I wanted to create here. So I started out with using Axiomod to generate a cylinder and then a pyramid on the back of the cylinder, and basically using that to kind of mold it into, as you can see here, what I don't really know what these are. Propellers, fans, engines, I don't know. I thought they looked cool. I thought they kind of fit the aesthetic of the build, and that's just why I put them here. They look futuristic. That's kind of the goal of this build at the end of the day. But again, using this copper gradient to basically go throughout the entire build. You also notice I put a little bit of a green bottom section here. This is like the captain's area, like the navigation area. And there's also a way to get up is in elevators that I'm not showing on this one, but there is a way to get up, as well as some interior places for people to sit as they make their journey and voyage to wherever they're going in this kind of universe. But there's 2 of these, and as you can see again, daylight sensors on the top as per usual, and that's going to be consistent throughout every single one of the builds has daylight sensors. But these are the airships that I created. Now we're moving on to the temple, I guess, the religious element. I wanted to do some sort of religious element in this kind of build. I think every Minecraft build has a church or some sort of variation of it, and I thought, well, I want to do one here. Since it's Solarpunk, I thought, well, maybe they could be worshipping nature and nature deities, because they're all about nature. It's a Solarpunkian society. So I started off with just like a basic fountain to kind of just cover the space on this kind of little island inlet that was made, because this was pre-generated Minecraft world that I found the seed for, that had this cool little island, and this was like a little off branch of the island. So I just needed to fill up the space before I get into the real big build, which is coming up soon. But this was kind of just to fill in that space, a little fountain, if you will. The real build, I wanted to basically make a tree, a custom tree. And I obviously needed a way to frame that, so I kind of thought of like ancient Roman or Greco temples, and they have these pillars that are in typically this rectangular shape. But what if I had these pillars, but they didn't have that triangular roof over them, and instead they're kind of just open? And so you can see here, I use these pillars, giving them some depth and a little bit of gradient as well, and then I connected them all through deep slate as the kind of the accentation of the block, and moss on top. And that's where I really thought this design looks pretty cool. By putting the moss on top, I was able to put bone meal and kind of further that Solarpunkian vibe, if you will. And then of course some decorations on the bottom with the limited resources I had. I started out with these big glowberry vines, but I decided I didn't really like the look of them at the end of the day. I think they just covered up too much of the outside view. And then we get into the tree. As you can see, this custom tree is a warped custom tree. I thought warped would be cool because it's special. It glows at night. Feels like a tree you might worship over like your traditional oak tree. This wasn't my best custom tree. I'll be honest, one of the things I improved a lot of in this build was building custom trees. I'm not a huge fan of this one, but I think it serves its basic purpose well enough to kind of act as a different, weird looking thing that you could believe that people want to worship, want to find interesting and cool and unique per se. But this is one of those trees, and this is the worship site, if you will, of these people. And then we go into the greenhouse. Originally, I was planning this to be like an actual greenhouse, but with the biodomes that are created across the map, it just didn't make sense to have a greenhouse in a greenhouse, if you will. So I decided to make this very small mini greenhouse, which I guess is a little bit hypocritical of my point, but nonetheless much smaller than my original plan design. I was planning to have actually multiple of these, like some of these on the roof too, but ultimately I just felt like there wasn't enough space to fit everything with multiple of these little structures, so I decided to make one out of acacia wood, again sticking to that orange and blue theme that copper is. Obviously these are filled inside with plenty of moss and other greenery and plants that you find in Minecraft, and then the rest of the greenery that we'll get to is basically done up with what I thought were like unique things that you wouldn't see in this kind of area, which is essentially a plains biome. So you'll see in a moment mushroom. I thought a mushroom area with some mycelium would look different, like you don't tend to see this very often. A cherry tree, you don't tend to see those very often. Kind of more of the unique Minecraft biomes, if you will. Things that you're not going to see in a normal survival world, and definitely not in like a plains biome. And then I added this little bamboo pond. Again, I think bamboo's a pretty rare biome to find in Minecraft, the bamboo jungle. And that's another aspect that I wanted to add into this greenhouse. I basically wanted this greenhouse to feel unique, feel a little bit weird. And that's why here I added an upside down tree. I had to build it right up first before I flipped it. And as you can see, I thought this was kind of like the crowning jewel to really make this greenhouse look more futuristic than it did at the moment. Now we get into our first like skyscraper. This entire build, other than like the farms and the more functional buildings, is all skyscrapers in essence. And this is the first one I built. Again, you can see I'm going with that kind of blue palette using copper, warped wood, prismarine in some points, concrete powder, bunch of different blocks, again like acacia and like sandstone for the orange palettes, but this one was a blue palette build, and they're all basically going to have these accentations of deep, slate, tough, other various blocks on the edges and the corners to just add a little bit of color contrast into the build. So as you can see, it's poking out of its biodome. That will be something that you'll see throughout this build. And this one I wanted to basically make these little mini balconies that are kind of stretched throughout the build to add a little bit of depth and character to them, as well as what I do all the time with my build, which is accent the windows and the doors. I always think when you want to try to make your building look different, have depth, have decoration, have things going on to see, the easiest way to do that is place windows in spots that look good, place doors in spots that are functional, and decorate them. Put blocks around them. Make it look different, color-wise, depth-wise. So you see I have done this in the entire build, whether it be with balconies or actually just decorating the windows and the doors outright. I also made this little elevator lift thing you see in most of my skyscrapers that basically is taking people up and down to the different houses. That allows me to utilize more of the interiors and not have to build a staircase. And here are the balconies, as you can see, that I've mentioned, kind of being built. And then we'll transition also into the roof. All of the roofs, and I thought this kind of fit the Solarpunk vibe, are going to have stuff on them. So they're all going to have essentially copper redstone things that are acting like antennas. They're going to have daylight sensors that are cosplaying, if you will, as solar panels, and then they might also have something else, maybe a larger antenna. In this case, they're going to have a mini satellite, as you can see on this one. Just a nice little mini white satellite, difference in color, looks pretty cool, adds a little bit of different shape into the top of the roof, because all of these roof shapes are almost all flat, so you have to add something to make the roof look, well, not flat, and that's what I did. And of course, because this is a Solarpunk village, that being it is futuristic but also green based futuristic, I added some leaves and vines throughout the build to make it feel that way, if you will, at least in my perspective. And yeah, that is the first of the skyscrapers done. Again, I'm not going to be showing every single skyscraper. I'm just going to be showing the ones that I wanted to showcase. Now, this one is not a skyscraper. This is instead a library. This is in one of the two big biospheres that I made that have a lot of buildings in them, a lot of tall buildings in them. And this one, as you can see, is just a basic, simple library. Again, using that blue color palette that I've used throughout the build, although it changes from building to building in terms of the blocks and the order that the gradient goes on, just add a little bit of variation. But this one is just a basic library. I thought this kind of bold shape would look cool and look interesting. And again, because it's blue and orange, transitioning to that copper top, and we have this kind of glass roof at the top here. Natural lighting looks cool from the inside, maybe not the most from the outside. Then some basic decorations as well. A lot of my decorations focused on two main things. Number one, adding greenery into my decorations. Moss, leaves, vines, whatever I could. And number two, adding dangles, if you will, into my decorations. Random things that look futuristic, look like electrical wiring, look like maybe air conditioning units or whatever it may be. Things that don't look like what we would see in modern day, or you would have seen 500 years ago in architecture. Things that look different, things that look unique. Now, this building doesn't have a lot of the dangles because it's not a huge building. It doesn't have a lot of flat surfaces for those to go on. You'll see in later builds that those have in plethora of those things. And I'll point that out in my walkthrough and talk through if you want to see more specific examples of that as well. But this is the library. And then we get into what is personally my favorite skyscraper in the entire build. And this is the one that I think I really elevated the level of this build. So I went for a different shape that's kind of starts narrow and then bulges up after, I think it is the first or second floor. And it then bulges back in after that to maintain this kind of shape. And this one, as you can see, is using the orange color gradient with its acacia wood and whatever you want to name it, as well as, I'm pretty sure that's deep slate tile as the kind of rings that are marking each floor as you go up. And then the big thing that I think elevated this build was I started to use two different things that I hadn't in the previous three skyscrapers that I built. Number one is white outings, these big white blocky outings to add color, depth, and contrast to the build, as well as in a plethora of dangles throughout the build. These little things with lodestone, wires, bars, lightning rods, levers, and buttons to make the build feel more futuristic. Because when I was looking at a lot of my reference images, they had these just random little electrical looking things spewed around the entire build, and I wanted to put that in. So I put these in on this building. I went back to my previous buildings that I've done and added those ones on as well. And as you can see with this one, these are the white outings that I think really elevated this build to kind of a next level, if you will. Just make the builds look so much more futuristic. A little bit of a time skip there as I added a little bit more decoration. Again, my decoration is centered around the windows and the doors. You see this throughout the entire build. All of it is centered around the windows and the door. Now, this is another build I wanted to highlight. Again, a lot more skyscrapers have been built. If you can see in the distance, you can see that little skyline that is kind of being formed. But this is a really cool thing I got some inspo for. And it's basically these circular homes that are attached to this large pillar. And they're just kind of attached in random different places along the pillar to create this really cool futuristic effect. I saw this on a lot of the inspiration when I was just looking up solar punk builds and just solar punk in general to kind of get the feel. And this was something I saw a lot in a lot of these builds. They had these kind of circular spiraling designs, and I thought this was a way that I could kind of replicate it. And I thought it turned out really cool. I used copper and fog lights at the bottom to kind of make it feel like that's what's powering this thing up a little bit, making it float. I don't know, thought it looked cool. It definitely looks cool from the bottom up perspective as well. And as you can see again, you can see the dangles there on the corners, as well as the green-based decorations of the windows, and of course the highly decorated rooftops with leaves, dangles, whatever you want. And then I basically made two different versions of them. One of them was the orange version, one of them was the blue version, slight tweaks and variations in each of these versions as well. And then I basically copy and pasted them around the tower in different locations, so they had some contrast, and when you look up, it kind of fills the entire vision, if you will. There isn't a gap within the vision as you look up, which I thought was really cool, this kind of overlaying vertical depth that you don't really tend to see a lot in Minecraft builds, obviously, because the height limit is a little bit limited. And then I did decorate the tower a little bit as well, adding in some accentation and just making it look overall a little bit cleaner than it looked at first. As you can see, just some basic accentation as well as a little roof on the top with, of course, its own custom little redstone notch, redstone satellite, if you will. And yeah, that's pretty much it. That's like the brief showcase of the build, if you will. I know it's not entirely brief, it's like 18 minutes, but those are just some of the important structures. There's a lot more buildings. There's buildings that are taller. There's buildings that have a lot of going in. Every single building is also furnished in the interior as well, if you want to see that. If you want to see every single building, and you want to see a walkthrough, you want to see the interiors, I will have the full walkthrough and talkthrough posted on my channel as well. This was just kind of to show a little bit of the building process and my thoughts behind it as I was building. Thank you guys so much for joining. I hope you guys check out the walkthrough and talkthrough, because that one I think is going to be a lot more interesting. But nonetheless, thank you guys for sticking around in this video. I hope to see you in the other one.